people are like, oh, they did her a favor, and all of these people are changing things for her. And it's like, no, we're just following the Constitution. Trump and the Republicans could see us coming, and so they shut down the government. And it ended up being this really interestingly, bizarrely scripted scene from like the House of Cards. He would no longer be president.
The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? You know? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about?
You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. You know, when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the Squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe. And that's kind of where I am on the subject. The president has explained his position. He has said, look, here's what I meant. If you're not happy living in America, leave. It's a free country, and I agree with that assessment.
And a lot of this gets really confusing with the different naming conventions that they have in Somalia, which get sort of mixed up, and they use different kind of conventions in different contexts. The other thing is that she has very purposely maintained a lot of ambiguity as to who her siblings are and even the number of siblings she actually has. So this is kind of a number that fluctuates when she speaks about it differently. And it's really not clear what the definitive number of siblings she has. And again, this is potentially part of some effort to obfuscate on this question, because if this were actually proven out, it would end her political career at the very least. And I think we also still need to completely resolve the question of her brother and their marriage. It's still kind of this gray area, and there's an answer out there. My sense is that the answer is that she did actually marry her brother in order to get him papers to the United States. As far as I know, that brother's no longer at the U.S. I believe he's in the UK somewhere, though it's unclear. But that actually does need to be resolved one way or the other, and it requires serious investigation, both by the government and by the media.
As mentioned, my name is Priya Samsner. I'm the senior editor and writer for Alpha News, and I've been with them for a little over a year now. So walking in there, I mean, I covered, little political things happening at the legislature, different races, those smaller local things. But it really wasn't until August when my editor, Donna, sent me a text message and said, check out this story from Powerline Blog. I had no idea what Powerline Blog was. I had no idea who Scott Johnson was or John Hinderrocker. So when I saw this seemingly innocent article about the first Somali candidate for any office in the United States running in Cedar Riverside and had allegedly married her brother, I looked at it and I laughed. And I called my boss and I was like, you seriously want me to investigate this? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is fake. And so she's like, just do it. These guys are credible. They're lawyers. And I was like, and? But I looked into it because I was like, you know what, we're just going to prove them wrong. We'll leave it at that and it'll blow away. I started digging in deeper and deeper, and lo and behold, there were 2 certificates for marriages to different people in different times. And she wouldn't give an answer, and she still hasn't to this day. You know, whenever you ask her about it, actually her first response that was so mind-blowing to me is that she blamed Donald Trump. She blamed Donald Trump for for Scott Johnson asking her about the marriage certificates. Now, being a former communications director, I immediately thought to myself, okay, if I'm in this situation, if I'm running this campaign, here's what I would do. I'd simply say, no, the allegations are completely false. I don't know anything about this. It must be a mistake. Most people are going to be like, okay, we're going to let it go. But she blamed Donald Trump for his racist ideology that would try to pick on a poor, innocent African immigrant that was trying to make a better life for herself. And that was a tipping point that I knew, oh no, she's lying. But it's not only that led me to believe that she really did marry her brother. I grew up around the immigrant community. My own parents came to this country. My dad almost 40 years ago, my mom 23, to this country to find a better life. My own family, even now, who still remain back home in South America, continue to try to find legal ways to come to this country. And I have watched the immigration process all my life. My mother was still living back home while my dad was an American citizen when they got married. And so I've seen the process, and I've heard first eyewitness accounts of what happens when a non-American citizen marries a citizen and what the immigration process is like. And it didn't add up. And that is how I knew that she was telling a lie. Now, mainstream media did do their due diligence to an extent in asking the questions about whether or not she had married her brother. But they stopped. And I didn't. In fact, I tracked down her brother / her legal husband. I should point that out, that right now the state legislature's website, her home page says that she is married with 3 kids. Beforehand, Wikipedia had listed her husband as Ahmed Hersey. After my reporting, it listed her husband as her brother. So I'm very proud to have changed Wikipedia. But she hasn't answered the questions. But I did track down the brother through various means. I found his resume. I contacted the guys that employed him, bugging them for his phone number, his email, and finally he responded. And I actually had the opportunity to have a conversation with him. And he lied to me.
He lied.
It was really interesting. So he, at that time, and to my knowledge, currently lives in London, England. And so he kept denying that it was him, that he was not the man married to Ms. Omar. And so I asked him to confirm, where he went to school. He's like, yeah, I did go to North Dakota State. And so I asked him, okay, can you give me the years that you went? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he gave me the years, and then I asked him for his birthday, and he gave me a fake birthday. So birthday, I should say, that was different than the one listed on the marriage certificate. So I called North Dakota State University, and I said, look, I know you guys can't give me a lot of information, but I do know that you can confirm for me who did attend your university and what year. So when I gave them the information, the birthday, the name, and the year that he supposedly attended, they told me no one ever went to their school at that time. But when I asked them about the Ahmed Elmi, that went to the university at the times, I suspected that he had went, which would have been the same time that Ilhan had moved to Fargo, North Dakota to go to school. Coincidentally enough, that man attended school at the same time she did, at the same university. And I had also tracked down proof that her cultural husband, Ahmed Hersey, this is the man that she currently touts as her husband, had also moved to Fargo, North Dakota at that time. So all three of them were living in the same city at the same time. So according to Representative Omar's statements, she had a cultural divorce from Hersey in 2007, got married in early 2008 to her brother, and they never divorced. And the crazy thing to me is that she said that she was in the process of getting a divorce, and that was during the election. After the election, she said it was impossible because the fees were too expensive, and that it was impossible to get a divorce while he was in London. Well, there's a problem with that. In the United States, you have the right to get a divorce as the only party, and Minnesota does consent to that law. So as an individual here who's married, say you decide you want to get divorced from your spouse, you technically don't need their consent. You can go to a judge, and while it is a lengthier process, it can be done. But she refuses to do so, which means Mr. Elmi, wherever he is, still has access to the United States. But that really was a tipping point for my life changing drastically. I decided not to go to law school after all. And shortly after, Janet introduced me to Pete Hegseth, who arranged for me to be on Fox News on Labor Day morning, where I was able to share the story of Ilhan Omar and her two husbands to the nation.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe, be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.